Hello, and welcome to episode 21 of Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast. Today we'll be discussing the potential meta heading into the spring split and Cloud9's matches against TSM and Dignitas. I'm your host, havokpus, and today I'm joined by...
Frozencreek again. I'm still sick, so I'm going to try and talk as much as possible, but it's only getting worse somehow.
And I'm Ian, back again.
Back again, indeed, and much like life, Frozen's cold is getting worse.
Yeah, if it's not one thing, it's in another, I feel like.
Exactly. But on a brighter side, we have a quick reminder for those listening at home. Fantasy has just opened up, so if you guys want to do Fantasy LCS, click on over to LOL Esports and click on the Fantasy tab, set up a league, and play with friends. We actually just started our own, and we'll probably be updating you guys about the results every week. My team's pretty decent. Everyone else had better picks, but
I'm going to say now that on my first week, as of now, is broken as hell because I have Hanser, Rainover, Bjergsen, Sven, and Mithy all starting, so I'm sorry.
RIP.
But will you blow the 3-1 lead?
Probably, let's be honest here.
Alright, well, we'll just have to wait and see. But before we jump into these match previews, I think we should discuss what the meta is kind of going to be looking like going into the spring split. There were some really big changes heading from, I guess, after Worlds and after All-Stars and heading into this. We have Camille. Camille looks pretty strong. If you guys watched the EU Challenger Qualifier tournament, we saw her some, and she looked insanely broken.
Yeah, I think she's actually a super good champion right now, especially in the right hands and in the right matchups. Her early game is just insane. So the pros that can abuse that are it just gets so out of hand.
Yeah, she seems to be like an Alawi, but is able to do like twice as much as Alawi.
No, Lowy's a stupid champ.
I like
Camille
Alawi.
has a stupid ass gap closer which goes like halfway across the screen, and her ultimate, her targetable ultimate, which forces someone to kind of sit there in like a little area, is just so dumb if you're like ahead. So I'm interested to see if she's just pick and ban.
I could honestly see that, considering how much power she has in the early game, that can be abused pretty easily.
Yeah, I could see it.
Yeah, for sure. I think the jungle, the meta has kind of shifted towards that too.
Yeah.
I think that this might be the time that we finally see Vi.
Oh yeah. She's extremely strong now.
Vi's been playing a lot.
Yeah, with Courage of the Colossus.
And
the
competitive,
fact that
though.
She can dive pretty much anything.
Her ultimate's annoying as hell.
Yeah,
but it is kiteable.
I think that Vi has always been a really strong pick. I just don't think she's, maybe except for once or twice. I can't think of any specifics, but I think she's always been one of those A tier junglers that just has never really been S tier. There's always been one choice that's always been like pick or ban that's just ever so slightly above her. But I feel like she might finally be up there to the point where she's not pick or ban worthy, but to the point where people will start actually picking her. And I think if that happens, I think we'll see a lot of the meta maybe shift towards her, because I think she's incredibly strong right now.
Yeah, for sure. I think the reason why we didn't see her was because there were junglers that did similar things but just better. Like Lee Sin had kind of the similar mobility.
He's pick and ban right now, I think, still.
Yeah, Lee anyone that can basically immediately dive the backline and kill your AD carry is Hecarim, Lee Sin, Vi.
Oh, dude, Hecarim's so annoying to play against right now.
He's so overpowered.
I hate
him.
Good right now still.
I always ban him whenever I'm in a game.
Jungle in general is just insanely strong right now.
Yeah.
The nerfs that they did to the jungle in the most recent patch are a little helpful, but it's just still insanely strong.
Conversely, AD carry is probably the weakest position, and probably the weakest it's been, I think.
Oh yeah, it's like the complete opposite side of the spectrum. Jungle is like insanely strong, and AD carry is like borderline useless sometimes.
Yeah,
It's in such
like
a bad spot.
pretty much every champion, except for a few exceptions, needs to really rely on getting those 3 to 4 item power spikes to really just be useful. And a lot of AD carries have a really bad early game, so you're just subject to any torment that the enemy team throws your way.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff we were used to seeing, or that not that we were used to seeing, but like that we were seeing at Worlds, is just completely not in the meta anymore. Like
Yeah, like the armor penetration items.
yeah, because they got rid of the
Thank
armor
God.
pin stuff, so you're not seeing all the like the super early game lane bully champions anymore. We're seeing more of the like, I guess, scaling, just because that's the only thing you can pick right now that isn't just absolute garbage. So it's like
Yeah, lots of
I know.
lots of Ashe, lots of Caitlyn.
Yeah, Twitch is pretty
still
good
seeing
too.
a lot of Jhin. Jhin is still pretty useful.
Yeah, Jin's really good. Yeah.
One thing that I think we're gonna start to see again is gonna be Corki mid. I think Corki mid right now is a strong pick, and if it's played into a comp with enough CC like Rek'Sai and Poppy or something, like Corki's gonna have a lot of strength playing in the mid lane because he doesn't take, or because he doesn't get ganked easily, and he does a good amount of damage. Plus, it's all mixed, and he lanes well against anyone.
Yeah, he's a very well-rounded pick.
I think, speaking of mid lane, we'll probably also see a few more assassins after the rework. Katarina is actually incredibly strong.
Katarina's the one I'm most interested about.
She's really fun to watch play. It's not fun to play against because you get one shot.
The thing about Katarina in pro play is like it's always been the like she just has no CC. Like that's her big drawback, is no CC. But the fact that she's so much more skill cap reliant, or like how good are you at this champion? Like that's basically the only thing that's like keeping the champion back, is how good are you at them. So like someone with insane mechanics like Bjergsen or Jensen, I feel like they could pick that into the right team comp and just completely go off on it. So I'm like, if they pick that, I'm super excited.
Yeah, for sure. I think LeBlanc is also going to be something that's going to be pick banned a lot.
LeBlanc is picker
just
banned
because,
right now.
Yeah. Just she actually has wave clear now.
Yeah, I know.
And she can still 100 to 0 you.
They took away her one big weakness, which was the fact she had no wave clear, and now she just one shots you with her passive.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Yeah. And Ryze too.
Ryze
is so strong.
Oh, and Oriana's good right now. Cassiopeia,
Syndra is
we'll see some. Syndra will play.
They did nerf Syndra quite a bit though.
Yeah, but
she's still really good.
Her
right
lane presence is so good.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah.
What do you guys think about top lane? I think we'll probably see a lot of tanks, since Curse of the Colossus is just such an incredibly useful mastery. So we'll probably see a lot of those.
Still gonna see a lot of Poppy.
So broken.
Like that champion, they nerfed it, but it's still insane. Like that champion just does everything so well. Other than
Maokai's
Poppy though, yeah, I could see Maokai being picked.
Yeah, Maokai's been picked a bunch now. Nautilus, they have a lot of options in terms of tanks.
Anyone that's just basically a super tank that can build nothing but like health and armor and still be useful, honestly.
I think we'll still be seeing Jace too, and Rumble.
Yeah, I could see them
not
being,
quite as much though.
Like based around team comps, I could see those picks happening. Yeah.
Yeah, like a Rek'Sai jungle.
Yeah, I could totally see that.
I have kind of noticed that if a team does pick a Jace or a Rumble, they kind of have to play a lot more carefully, since they don't have the luxury of having another like tanky engage option. You kind of have to rely a lot on your jungle. I think to a lesser degree, your support to land CC, so you can follow up. And if you can't really do that, it makes the game a lot harder to win.
Yeah, it's a much more fragile team comp whenever you run a tank top laner, such as Jace or Rumble, because then first off, you don't have that late game insurance of or not even late game, like basically a tank, no matter how behind they get, they're always going to be some useful in some way. Whereas the damage dealers, if they get behind, they don't have CC or anything. They just have damage, which they don't have if they're behind. So they basically have nothing. And then if you if you get ahead, there's a very strong pressure to execute on the team comp, because if you can't continue pressuring your lead and you fall behind, then the tank's just going to run over your team because there's nothing you can do about it. So it's a much more high skill cap team comp, but if executed correctly, it's extremely effective.
Yeah, for sure. I remember in the summer we were playing Immortals once, and Huni got Rumble, and they were playing a really super glass cannon team, but they executed it in such a way that we couldn't do anything to them because their damage was just so overwhelming.
Yeah, you kind of saw some of that at Worlds, where like the Jace and the Poppy pick, if the Jace got ahead early, it was like there was nothing the other team could do because he just chunked them out so hard. But then if he didn't get ahead early, Poppy just ran over the entire team and they couldn't kill her.
Yeah, for sure. I think.
How about?
What were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say, let's transition to the support meta also.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention. Support is in a really interesting role now, because now we're seeing a lot of mages.
And Malzahar.
Yeah, Malzahar support. We're seeing Ziggs bot lane, which is kind of interesting. We're seeing a lot of really weird picks there, and I think that's just because bot, ADC, and I think to a lesser extent support is a really volatile place because it's in such a weakened state. So we're seeing a lot of more supports, a lot of different things being tried to regain that balance. What do you guys think we're going to see in terms of support play?
Support play right now, I feel like Karma is kind of like the generic, if you want a support but you don't know the team comp you want, Karma fits into basically any team comp. But other than that, I feel like it's really open for any team's like interpretation of what they want in a support role for any given game. Like if you want a mage support, you could go like Vel'Koz, Zyra, Brand, any of those, or Malzahar. If you want like a lockdown mage support, and if you want like a tanky support, you could go Braum or Taric or something like that. Like I think this is the most diverse the support role has ever been in the history of League.
My only qualm against tanks supports is I'm not a huge fan of Braum and Taric this patch. If anyone, I think Alistar's the only one because his ult gives tankiness, but our Redemption's a must build. Right now.
I forgot about that.
So
I think
supports can't build quite as many tanky items.
That's true.
I want to throw in Leona as a possibility. From my limited playing of solo queue, Leona is a really good support because she has just so many CC tools that if you can draft a really good wombo combo team, you pretty much steamroll through anything that comes your way because no one can move if you have like a misfortune, maybe a good mid laner or a good top laner. You can just keep them there so long that everyone just slowly dies, and then you just slowly win the game. So I think we might be able to see her. I think the only thing to stop that is that she may have trouble peeling and doing some of the stuff later in the game that other supports can do.
She's also a really weak in lane besides level 2. If Zyra gets
she's not gonna be able to do much until she gets
Malzahar,
at least 2.
She gets poked down so hard.
Yeah,
her level 2 engage is super strong.
Yeah, her two big weaknesses are that her laning is pretty lackluster if she gets poked down like at all, and all of her stuff is really telegraphed. Like everything she does has a pretty significant delay on it, like any way of stunning or getting in. So if a team can react appropriately to it, they can deny her pretty hard.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. She does have that kind of tell where she just kind of waddles up to you, and then it's like, oh, she's walking forward, she's gonna Zenith
Yeah,
Blade, and then you
it's
just
similar to Blitzcrank, where it's like if
yeah,
they move forward, you know exactly what they're trying to do, so you can just walk
yeah.
backwards and they can't do anything.
Unlike Thresh, who his body stays stationary and you can throw the hook wherever.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Plus, he's a ranged auto
Yeah,
attack, so there's more
yeah. I
to
could
work with.
definitely also see Thresh being picked a lot more.
Yeah, Thresh is always like,
Thresh is always good.
yeah.
Uh, what do you say we move on to the 10 ban system before we talk about our match previews?
Oh my
I
god, I'm
pulled
so
it up.
happy about that.
I pulled it up so I could explain it.
Okay, yeah, sure. Go ahead, Frozen.
So it works in two different ban phases and two different pick phases. The first ban phase is just like it used to be, where blue side banned, red side, blue side, red side, blue side, red side. And then the first pick phase, each team picks three, but it goes blue, red, red, blue, blue, red. And then the ban phase 2 kind of flip flops. It goes red bands, then blue bands, then red bands, then blue bands. And then for the pick phase 2, it's red picks, blue picks, blue picks, red picks.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. It seems like it is trying to counteract side disadvantages, because I think red side sometimes would be the one that's always kind of at a disadvantage, because one side would always have to outban meta picks, while blue side kind of has the comfort of, oh well, we can target ban you a little bit more. So I think I could definitely see that kind of counteracting that. Also, I just want to see what comps teams will draft, because now they have a lot more flexibility in what they're banning and what they're picking.
I think that something this really adds that was kind of drastically needed was like it gives more reactionary play in the drafting phase, because whenever you're doing your draft, it used to be like you did all your bans, and then if you drafted something and the enemy team picked something that played well into that, it was like there was nothing you could do. Like that was it. Your draft was screwed. That was it. But now it's like if you can tell the enemy team is looking to draft a certain kind of comp, and you know that a certain champion, they could pick a certain champion and it would like hard counter your comp, you can ban that champion now. So it's like you can play a lot more reactively to what the enemy is doing and what you need in your team, I think. So that's going to add more. I feel like we'll probably end up seeing more like specific comp styles like poke or wombo combo emerge, because they can ban away stuff that would hard counter that, and in turn a team comp can emerge that is much more not well rounded, but like it's not being hard countered by some meta pick anymore.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I think that adding a lot more nuance to the draft phase will make the games more entertaining to watch. I think not just in the draft phase, but throughout, because now it's like, oh, they're not going to pick Rek'Sai or Gragas anymore. Now they can pick anything. And I think also just seeing the different types of champions that will be played widen. I'd really like to see some not so often picked champions, in the jungle and the mid lane and such, get played at least a few times.
Yeah, I think it'll really open up a lot of different champion pools for play. So I'm super excited to see what all comes out of this.
Yeah, me too. I'm definitely all for it.
I think that the most interesting part is to see how teams are going to start navigating this, because it adds a completely new element to the pick and ban phase, where it's hard to say who exactly has an upper hand, because I think it's something that can be hard to plan for once you actually get on stage. And I know there's I think it's an old Team Liquid coach who does a bunch of pick and ban stuff, after the fact. He normally talks about it like every week or every other week after a game, and I'm excited to see him break stuff down if he keeps doing that.
Yeah, it'll definitely add a whole new layer. I'm curious to see how our team specifically will handle it. If we'll try to draft and ban more towards individual player strengths or try to target enemy strengths and stuff. So many things can happen. It just makes it so exciting.
Yeah. Something else that not to like drag on this, we can move on after this, but I think something else that might end up happening that tends to end up happening in LCS is people will want to play safe, so they'll just end up drafting extremely generic team comps up until the four extra bans, and then they'll figure out what they want to do after that. That way they don't get counter banned or counter picked.
Yeah, I could see that as well.
So that's just something else that could potentially happen. I don't like, obviously we can't tell for sure what's going to happen, just an idea.
Yeah, it's an all new system, so we're going into territory we've never been in before, which is always good. New things are fun.
Mm-hmm.
But let's move on to our first match preview. You guys, we're fighting TSM in a epic rematch. This it's Friday. I think it's the first match of the week actually for North America at least.
Yep.
It should be pretty great. TSM, no more double lift, no more Weldon. Bjergsen's gonna have to really shoulder up and try to maybe take care of a lot more shot calling duties. It'll be interesting to see, I think, on our side how Ray and Contracts perform.
Yeah, I think that this is like a matchup that if you look at it on paper, C9 I think has like the upper hand because like obviously because they their roster never really revolved around one single person shot calling. It was always kind of a group effort. And so losing Meteos in place of Contracts really doesn't change a whole lot. And Contracts is supposed to be really good. So like, I feel like that won't really impact the game like too much. It'll still kind of play the same since it's a group effort for shot calling. But on TSM side, double lift was like a big part of their shot calling decision making. So without him being there, I'm really curious to see how they'll end up playing out all the different phases of the game. If they'll look coherent during early game, or if they'll look incoherent during late game, just how all that'll play out. So I'm really curious to see how that happens. Talent wise, I think that our bot lane has the upper hand. I think that Sneaky outclasses Wild Turtle. Wild Turtle's still really good, but I think he's just outclassed by Sneaky. Smoothie and Biofrost are both kind of the newbies there, so we'll have to see how that works out. I haven't seen Wild Turtle and Biofrost play together a lot. We got to see them a little bit, I think. Oh wait, did we?
Yeah, at IEM.
Yeah, okay, yeah, we
played
did
together.
We did.
They didn't look that great.
Yeah,
I
but
think.
they hadn't practiced much together.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and then Jensen Bjergsen is like skill matchup. That's just jungle pressure dictates that one. Top lane Impact wins that, I think, hands down. And then we'll have to see how Contracts does. I'd be hard pressed to say he wins versus Finn, but just because I think Finn is just really, really good. But we'll have to see how that one turns out.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see Contracts play because Bjergsen has said before that Contracts is like a really good jungler, and he's always wanted to play with him because anytime Bjergsen plays with Contracts, he wins.
Yeah.
So if that says anything to his skill level, it should make for a really great match. Like you said, Jensen versus Bjergsen, that's a pure skill matchup. It should be a really good match overall. I can't really think of anything else to say. I mean, what else can you really say about Cloud9 versus TSM? This is like a storied rivalry, that's gone on for a while.
I think personally, this first week, we don't match up amazingly into either team. Specifically TSM, just because we're starting a rookie jungler who's starting his first match on the big stage on a Friday night at the beginning of a split. And as of now, we haven't been able to decide if Contracts is as good or better than Svenskeren, who has proven that he's a maybe low tier 1, high tier 2 a jungler in NA, while we don't overwhelmingly win any of the other lanes. So it's not like we can just get carried by top lane or mid lane or bot lane just because all of it is a skill matchup, and it can easily turn around if Svenskeren is able to dominate the early game better than Contracts is.
I think another point should be Kane, our assistant coach. I'm really curious to see if his input will affect how our game plays, because from the roster announcement, he said that he wanted to work specifically during the early game and laning phase and helping us kind of better transition from one phase to another and work on and improve our already strong laning, so we can just completely bulldoze the enemy team before we even have a chance. So I'm really curious to see if working with him has improved our game any.
And another thing that kind of worries me looking at this, you kind of just brought it up, but our laning is pretty good across the board, and besides Jensen, we pretty much are likely to win every lane unless we get pushed in super hard. But TSM's mid game has been a lot stronger than ours, so I don't know how it's gonna look in a new split. But last split, TSM's early macro movements and mid game movements were far superior to ours.
That might have been because of the shot calling of double lift, though. So it's like you don't really know.
Yeah, we'll really just have to see how it plays out. I think one thing I want to point out before we move on, we may not do as well in the beginning of the season as we do in the later halves of the season. And this, I think, has always been what Cloud9 has kind of worked with. We kind of have a slow start early in the split and kind of have to figure out the meta and how the other teams are playing. But by the end of the season, or the split rather, we're doing pretty well, and we place within the top 6 teams and go to the playoffs. So set your expectations accordingly, everybody. Don't get mad just because we lost 1 or 2.
Yeah, just losing a couple games at the beginning of the season is nothing to fret over, in my opinion.
Yeah, I've always thought you can't really judge how well a team is in the LCS until like 3, maybe even 4 weeks in, just to see how everyone is doing and how they're adapting. So I don't think you can't really judge too finely on where a team lies until that point.
Yeah, I mean, just look at Envy. They started off doing insanely well whenever they came in, and then they flopped like super hard after the very beginning. So it's like,
yeah, exactly.
And Dignitas was famous for doing that. They would have insanely strong beginnings of the splits and then just completely fall off.
Too many dig barons.
Yeah.
Speaking of which,
hold on. Can I add one more thing?
Yeah, what's
yeah,
up?
sure.
Okay, so the Cloud9 versus TSM League of Legends matchup is my favorite in esports, just because it's like the first time I actually watched esports was in 2015, I think. It would have been season 5 spring split, when it was TSM versus Cloud9 in the finals of the the spring split, and Meteos hit a 5-man flash Sejuani ult, and at that point I knew that I was a Cloud9 fan forever.
Hey.
So
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of good memories with C9 versus TSM.
I feel like
and
C9 versus TSM has kind of taken over, or taken up the embodiment of what CLG versus TSM used to be.
It's way more exciting than CLG versus TSM.
Yeah, that used to be the biggest rivalry in esports, was CLG versus TSM, but now it's like, I don't know, it just doesn't have the same feel to it anymore as it used to.
Yeah, I think with Double Lift gone, a lot of that rivalry energy, and with Povelter gone,
yeah,
a lot of that rivalry energy has kind of dissipated. So now it's like,
I think another thing.
Who do they really have that's really that competitive?
What?
I said, who do they really have that's really that competitive
Oh yeah,
against TSM besides like Aframu
exactly. And I feel
or
like
maybe Darshan?
a lot of the rivalry that everyone loved about TSM and CLG was like Hotshot versus Reginald. Those were the things that like really they would talk trash to each other, and Double Lift would talk trash to TSM, and it was like everyone just talked trash about the other team, and it was great. But then once all the players started leaving, it was like no one talked trash anymore, and it just wasn't the same. So, but then C9 came along.
Now we have the memes.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Last thing before we move on. This game takes place on Friday, January 20th, and is at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It is the primetime game of the week by far.
Yeah, mark your calendars, set clocks, get ready for it.
I'm pretty hype.
It's gonna be great.
Yes. All right. So speaking of Dig Barons, we play Dignitas on Sunday. And I'm really interested to see how Dignitas will do just because this is a completely new roster. They've imported some really big names and they've shuffled some stuff around, and I really am not sure how we match up against them.
This is really interesting. I was talking about this in the last episode we did with Dignitas. It's like their roster has a lot of potential to be super super strong. We haven't seen any of these players play with each other in this environment yet, so it's like it has the potential to be super good, but as we know, a lot of potential to do super good does not always mean doing super good. So, and like I guess the only thing you could really do is analyze the individual lane matchups. I think our bot lane outclasses theirs again.
Yeah, for sure. Sneaky and Smoothie are way better than Loud and
Smoothie is like as good as X-Special was. I think that Smoothie is either as good or better than him now. Sneaky, I just think is way way better than Laud. Jensen, obviously better than Keen. Like it's not even a contest in that one. Again, we haven't seen Contracts play, so we can't really say a whole lot about him. I know Chaser is good, but I haven't seen him play a ton. The only one that I think is like a possible contest is the top lane. Do we know who's starting for Dignitas in the top lane for this game?
I'm not sure. It could be Ray, it could be Impact. I think either way, everyone's gonna have their eyes on that matchup for sure, just because it's Someday. He's a big name Korean talent, and he's coming over to North America.
Yeah, because I was thinking like, if it's Impact versus Someday, that's gonna be like the matchup to watch right there. But if it's Ray, I don't know. I feel like Someday wins that.
I think Someday wins either way.
Really?
I think it does come down to the matchup though. If it's like Rumble or Impact or Ray on a Rumble against a tank, then Sunday's just gonna get pushed in. But Sunday was like an elite to like maybe the best top laner in Korea last split. Like he is like the real deal.
Okay, yeah.
I think
that's fair.
I think one thing to kind of look at least from Impact's point of view, is sometimes doing well doesn't mean like getting a lot of solo kills. Mostly his job is farming efficiently and soaking as much pressure as possible up to that top lane. He wants Chaser to come up to his lane and gank him as much as possible, so Contracts and Jensen can do whatever they want on the bottom half of the map. I think to really be successful, Impact needs to play smart, soak up that, be that gank sponge, and play his lane smart. I think that's all he needs to do, and he can win.
I agree with that. Yeah, doing what your team needs you to do does not always equal winning your lane. And winning your lane does not always mean killing your opponent. It can mean just not being killed by your opponent. Like being even in CS is sometimes winning your lane depending on the matchup. So
yeah, for sure. I mean, top lane is one of those roles that you don't necessarily have to get a lot of kills and get super fed to succeed.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's mostly about like teleport placement, and wave management and split pushing and a lot of other factors that are outside the laning phase altogether.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think this is another thing. This is where we get to see contracts really, like, how good of a jungler is he? Because in a top lane matchup like this, this is what can make or break a really, really good jungler, is like how you deal with a lane that is potentially losing. Like if that lane is going south and Chaser's just camping top lane, like what do you do in this situation? Like, do you camp mid and bot and hope that they can carry? Do you try and counter gank? Do you try and camp top and gank before Chaser gets there? Like what is his strategy for dealing with this not mismatch in the top lane, but like this clash of the Titans if Impact and Someday are to play each other?
I think that Dig's biggest win condition is to camp top lane, just because Someday's their obvious carry.
Oh yeah, I agree
Just
with that.
because
100%.
Loud and Keen aren't like bad, but they're like mid tier based on what we've seen of them so far. And I think that the almost obvious response at first is to, if you can't counter gank, then 5-man bot. I hate that strategy so much, but the weakened
It's dirty,
turrets,
but it works right now.
Mhm.
yeah, the weakened turrets make it so fucking easy.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that would be the best strategy, because Impact is really good at soaking pressure, like we were talking about. So if he could do a TP gank bot and get himself out of the top lane for a little bit and try and help other lanes, or if he could just soak the ganks and then they could 4-man bot, like that just works so well right now. So I think regardless of what happens, I think C9 is in a good spot for this one.
Yeah, it should be a really exciting game. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to both games this week.
Oh yeah.
One more quick point.
Oh yeah, sure, go ahead.
One more thing that I think gives us an advantage is that we have 4 English native English speakers, which which allows us to play a more macro-oriented game because we can communicate a little bit better. And it seems like Impact and Ray are going to speak well enough for us to communicate with them, while Someday and Chaser are coming straight from Korea.
Yeah, that is something that I hadn't thought about.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I think Keen does speak Korean, so I think Someday and Chaser are going to try to use him as like the translator. So that may actually overload kind of shot calling, because Chaser and Someday may be saying, "Hey, we need to do this," but they're having to pause and take time for Keen to relay that message to Loudneck Special.
Man, so many times that I've seen a team try and do that, where it's like, "Oh yeah, we have someone that
hasn't
speaks
been
both
pretty.
languages." It's like it's so bad sometimes. I know that some of the Chinese teams that
Fnatic
imported a
last
bunch
split.
of Koreans tried to do that, and it didn't work at all. Some of the EU teams that did that tried it, and it didn't work. So it's like if it does work, then it works, but I've seen it not work way more times than it has.
Yeah, I think it really just puts an extra burden on that player, because out of all the stuff you already have to do, you also have to play telephone basically.
Yeah, it's adding complexity to the
and try to
game.
get your message across to the other players.
It's adding another potential failure point.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Frozen, were you going to say something about it?
Oh no, I was just coughing.
Oh, okay.
I'm good.
Yeah, do we have anything else to say on the Dig matchup before we close out the episode?
No, I think that's it.
Predictions.
Oh yes, predictions. Very good.
Oh yeah,
It's that
yeah.
time of year.
Uh,
Hold on.
Who wants to start? Frozen, you want to start, or do you want to start, Ian?
Frozen can go first.
Alright, I'm gonna say we win 2-1 against TSM and 2-0 against Dig.
I'm gonna go 2-1 for both games. I think we can win, but it will not be easy, clean-cut victories. We will have to really put our time and effort in and play smart, play well, fire on all cylinders.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with 2-1 for both of them in favor of C9. I think the TSM game, like TSM's always strong, so that like they're always a threat to take us take the series or to take us to 3 games. But I think C9 does prevail in that one. And then for C9 versus Dig, it's like I give a game to Dig. I would say 2-0, but I give a game to Dig because that roster does look scary. And so if top lane gets overwhelmed in one of the games, that could easily take over the game. So I think if that happens once, C9 can adapt to it. And I'll give them that one game because I think that might happen. So that's my prediction.
Also, just to add, the Cloud9 Dig game is approximately 6 p.m. on Sunday the 22nd.
Should be super exciting. Tune in next week. Well, we will have a full breakdown of those games, as well as the preview for next week's games.
Moment of the week.
Are we gonna? What?
Are we gonna do moment of the week?
Yeah. I was just about to.
Oh, cool.
I was just reminding our lovely viewers at home that next week we will break down this week's games and then do a preview of next week's.
And we will be here weekly from here on out.
Yes, weekly. More of my voice in your ears.
Yay.
And my sickly voice.
Hopefully he gets better.
Because I'm going to be sick for 9 weeks straight.
Oh, God.
10 weeks, I guess. Counting last
Hey,
week.
but if we win every game while he's sick, that means it was a sign.
And
So
then
now
I'll
you
get
just
better by
have to stay
playoffs.
sick forever. Straight through playoffs. All right. Well, do you guys have any moments of the week?
We're recording this on Monday, so I can't give a shout out to anything I get to watch on LCK tomorrow, or give a shout out to LCK production, which has overwhelmingly been kind of a shit show. So my moment of the week, I guess, is going to be someone on Sneaky's stream calling Sneaky's death 10 seconds before it happened.
I saw that.
Oh yeah,
that
There
was
was
funny.
it's really funny.
donator who sent a donation and said, Sneaky, you will die within 10 seconds. And he's like, oh, well, fuck you, I'm going to play safe.
As
He
soon
got
as that
shit on.
happens, Warwick comes out and flash ults him.
Yeah, he got his shit on pretty hard.
Yeah, that was funny.
that was really good to see. My moment of the week, I actually have 2. The first being Cloud9's Dota 2 team, which is newly acquired, got second place in their first big tournament.
Yay, other esports.
Yay! Yeah, I still need to watch them actually play, but they looked pretty good throughout the tournament from what I did see. And my second one was during the European Challenger qualifier. One team did Mordekaiser Warwick bot lane, and believe me, it was awful. But I can at least appreciate the creative effort.
There was an attempt.
Wasn't there in another couple oddball picks? I know Shaco Jungle got picked.
Yeah, there was like Shaco Jungle.
The
There's
Shaco
one more,
actually
I
did
can't
pretty
remember.
well. It didn't do too bad. It was just they couldn't convert the early lead they got with it into anything.
Yeah, that was really the only problem. I remember watching it, and you and me, Ian, were actually doing a little bit of commentary on it, and that was really all that just happened, and the game kind of just spiraled out of control from there.
Yeah.
I was watching it in the shower.
Hey, nice.
Multitasking, I like it. That's a really hard skill to develop.
Yep, that's how I watch LCK each week.
That's awesome.
Ian, do you have any
Yeah,
moments of the week?
my moment of the week would be I moved back into my dorm and I got everything set up and it's all nice and organized now, and so I'm done moving all my stuff over, and I don't have to worry about that anymore. So I'm glad to have that out of the way.
Oh, should we plug your other show that you just got on?
Oh yeah, sure.
Yeah, please plug yourself.
Okay,
please go ahead.
So for anyone that listens to this and has not heard of another podcast called the Trinity Force Podcast,
Big deal.
they're one of the biggest League of Legends podcasts, and they have multiple shows. They have the Trinity Force podcast, the Trinity Force proper, which is like their main podcast. They have the LCS rundown where they do like all the LCS stuff. They have the Four Wards podcast, which is like a intro to League, kind of learn it and all that. And they have a bunch of other smaller podcasts that they do. But I am officially going to be a part of the LCS Rundown podcast now. I'm going to be a co-host on there. So,
Proud of you.
but if you haven't already checked them out or heard of them, be sure to go check them out. They're a bunch of great guys. If you're a fan of podcasts in general, just like check them out. Their podcast is great. I'm sure you'd like it. So, and they have a couple C9 fans on there as well. So you'll feel right at home.
Maybe you can plug our show in on their show.
Yeah, I'll ask. I'll ask for
Yeah,
it.
ask. At least ask.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening to episode 21 of Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast. Feel free to tweet questions at us and feedback to @C9Bodied or email us at bodiedfancast@gmail.com. We would really appreciate any fan interaction. We'll certainly get on Twitter once LCS starts. I'm really excited for it. Everyone's really excited for it. Really looking forward to this split. We're gonna try super hard to make this show the best Cloud9 oriented show we can be. So, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Oh shit! Also, we're on iTunes. Just search Bodied in the iTunes store.